From the pocket. Intercepted. Jumping the route is Christopher Smith. A foot race. Can the quarterback catch him? He cannot. Pick six, Georgia.
Well, college football is back. From Mackenzie Milton leading the comeback against Notre Dame, to Clemson getting dominated by Georgia, to Oregon almost losing to Fresno State, to Oklahoma almost losing to Tulane. I honestly can't wait for the rest of the season, the rest of the games, and how it's all going to turn out later this year. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about the rankings week to week, how the AP poll presents their top 25, how I present my top 25, and how the College Football Committee comes out with their top 25 when they come out with it halfway through the season. With that being said, this is going to be week 1 of my rankings. So as you guys see, I have Alabama number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State 3, and Oklahoma 4 rounding out the top 4, with Texas A&M and Cincinnati looking in. After that, I have Clemson, Notre Dame, Iowa, and Iowa State rounding out the top 10. Clemson at 7 just because they were abysmal versus Georgia, but I still think that they would beat Notre Dame, Iowa, or Iowa State, which is why I have them above those teams. Notre Dame did not look good against Florida State, despite Cohen being as well-rounded as he was that game. Then we have Iowa. Now Iowa just gave it to Indiana, beating them 34-6. Michael Penix Jr. just did not look good at all. Iowa's defense is legit. They played really hard. They picked him off 3 times. So that's why I have Iowa where they are right now from where they were before at rank 18. And then we have Iowa State rounding out the top 10. Like I said, they did not look good against Northern Iowa. They definitely did not look like the 7th best team in the country to me, which is why I had to drop them to 10 to round out the top 10. Now for the teams ranked 11 to 15, I have Penn State at 11, Florida at 12, Oregon at 13, Texas at 14, and USC at 15. Now I have Penn State at 11 because of their win against Wisconsin. They won 16-10 in Madison, but they did not look that good for most of that game. And I have a lot of questions about their offense, or else I would have ranked them a little bit higher. But their defense is also legit. They have a very good defense, and if that offense gets going, I 100% believe they'll be in the picture later on in the season. Now, as for Florida, I put Florida at 12, and I raised them 1 just because I think they play well against FAU, but I don't think they're as dominant as they could be. Now, I also believe that Anthony Richardson should be the starter going to week 2, even though Emory Jones seems like he's a bit more experienced. I just think Richardson is the better player, and he's going to help them win when they need to. Then we have Oregon. Now, Oregon's expectations were obviously very high for this year. They have Ohio State coming up next week, or I should say later on this week, but they did not perform against Fresno State at all. They very well could have lost that game if it wasn't for a couple miscues by Fresno State. They won that game 31-24 at home. Thibodeau did go down in the first and second quarter, I believe. So it kind of seemed like they didn't really have a pass rush after that. But I do expect Oregon to bounce back. But just because of that performance and the fact that it was at home, I had to drop them down to rank 13. Next, we have Texas. Now, Texas just played Louisiana. They won that game 38-18, and they were ranked 21 at the time. Louisiana was ranked 23. A lot of expectations for Steve Sarkisian, but Texas did win, so they looked very dominant, and that's why I have them at 14 right now. As for USC, I still have them at rank 15 because they played San Jose State this weekend at home, and they honestly didn't look the best. I mean, it was 30-7, so I mean, they played well, but against San Jose State, I kind of expected them to just like blow them out way more than they did, personally, but I still have high hopes for USC this season. And now for the biggest surprise team of the week, I believe anyway, UCLA. UCLA put it to LSU. They won 38-27, and they just played great. They play great on defense. They play great on offense. That team is very experienced. Dorian Thompson-Robinson knows exactly what he's doing, and he's going to lead that team to a good record this season. I would not be surprised if they were in the Pac-12 championship and won the Pac-12 championship this year. Then for the second biggest surprise of the weekend, Virginia Tech beating number 10 North Carolina. Now that game, I really believed in North Carolina. I thought they would win that game, but I also thought it was going to be very tough because Virginia Tech at home, they're just great. They can pull off these upsets, and they're a team that regularly pulls off these upsets, but they're very spotty. But Virginia Tech, I do believe they're going to be a decent team. I think they'll win 7 games this year, but this is a big win for them, and I do think North Carolina is overrated, and I'll get to that later on in the video. Now for Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they played great defense against Penn State, and they still lost that game 16-10. But I think the reason they lost was because Graham Mertz turned the ball over too much, and they couldn't get anything going on offense. And he just made too many errors. He has a lot of growing to do, but I think Wisconsin's still going to win 10 games this year, or 11, depending on how the West Division goes for the Big Ten. But yeah. Next we have Coastal Carolina, Utah, and Arizona State. They all took care of business. They beat the teams they played, and they beat them convincingly, so that's why I have them where they are. They just moved up a little bit. And then after that, I have North Carolina sitting there at 22, just because of how they lost to Virginia Tech. They didn't lose by much, but I still think that they're an overrated team, and 22 is just where I see them, unless Howell actually plays a Heisman contending quarterback. I do not think North Carolina is going to be anywhere near the top 10 again, especially unless they beat Clemson. If they can beat Clemson, then it's a different story, but I don't see it happening. So for the last 3, rounding out my top 25, 23 I have Michigan, 24 Miami, 25 LSU. Now these 3 are controversial. Michigan, they play good in their win, but I'm not 100% convinced in Cade McNamara or their defense as much, but I do think they deserve to be in the top 25. As for Miami, they got thrashed by Alabama, which I saw coming. Miami is overrated every single year, and I always believe that they should be in the 20s or not ranked at all. Even with Derek King coming back, I truly believe that they are where they should be at 24. And LSU, it was kind of hard for me to put them in the rankings, but hard for me to keep them out because I think they have a lot of issues, but their team is still very good. And I think they would beat any teams on the outside looking in, to be honest. So that's where I'm going to keep them unless they prove otherwise. There you guys have it. That's my top 25 and reasons why I put the teams where they're at. Now I'm going to be doing this every single week. Like I said, I'm going to try and do it every Monday. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like, comment, let me know how I did. Let me know your rankings in the comments. And yeah, that's been it. Peace.